I got the notification Thursday before Minneapolis, and I flew home Friday from Minnie back to California, and on Monday I went to a lab and did my own urine test there, which they tested for the full WADA code, and nothing came up.
That's Broc Tickle, and that is surprising. I talked to Tickle nearly 2 months ago, researching for a feature in Racer X Illustrated magazine. That feature is actually out in our current issue right now. Tickle is the focal point of any story that involves drug testing in motocross right now because he's the latest rider to fail a test. But he's not the only one sitting on the sidelines waiting to find out when he'll be able to come back. Cade Clason failed a test last year. Clason admitted that he had a prescription for Adderall. He tried to apply for a therapeutic use exemption. He thought he had one on the books. It turned out he did not. So when he was tested last year in April at the Supercross in New Jersey, Adderall showed up, and he is suspended and still doesn't know for how long. Tickle's story is a little bit different, but similar in some ways. He was tested at the San Diego Supercross this year in February, found out in April at the Minneapolis Supercross that he was provisionally suspended. Neither rider has yet to hear from the FIM as to how long that suspension will be. But this is a very diverse and very divisive topic, and you always have to leave the door open. It is a drug test. Somebody failed. You have to at least account for the fact that it is possible that someone was trying to cheat and improve their performance in the arena or on the track, whatever it might be, and they simply got caught. So there were a lot of rumors and theories as what went down with Tickle, and I have to say it seems the majority of the people were on Tickle's side. But there were some dissenting voices out there. Drug testing and motocross is a hot topic. It's a hot topic at any sport. So finally, I called Broc. He was actually kind of back in the spotlight. He had done our buddy Steve Mathis's Pulp Show earlier in the week when I talked to him. And I talked to him here for almost 45 minutes. And all I can say is that all the potential theories that are out there, and whether you think Tickle is guilty or not, whether this traces back to the man he was training with at the time, Alden Baker, regardless, I have to say, Broc Tickle is either telling the complete truth here and has no idea what the heck happened, or he is one hell of a liar. You heard that little clip here at the beginning. You'll hear this whole interview here. It sure seems like he has no idea how he failed this test. And that just makes it that much more interesting. But I also give Broc credit. He's not picketing. He's not chaining himself to a fence at the front gate saying this is unjust and this is unfair. He's essentially just waiting to find out what his sentence is. Now, in this interview, we'll also mention Broc's lawyer, Brian, who's actually the father. I found this one out. It's actually Mitchell Harrison, his current rider for Rockstar Husqvarna in the 250 class. That's Mitchell Harrison's dad. Because of the motocross connection, he's helping Broc out, I would believe, at a reduced rate from what a lawyer who has zero connection to this would do. The lawyer thing makes this interesting. Now, when I was researching this story for the magazine, I felt it was only fair to try to get the side of someone from the FIM. It's easy to get Tickle's side and Cade Clason's side. If it were anybody else but James Stewart, it probably would have been easy to get his side of his failed drug test dating back a couple of years ago. But I thought it was only fair to see what the FIM had to say. The only FIM contact I really have is John Gallagher. Now, he is the race director at Supercross. Drug testing is absolutely not Gallagher's department, and he fully admits that. I wasn't calling him to get information on drug testing. I just wanted a contact from that department. Ended up talking to Gallagher for a while. I took notes for the story. I didn't record the interview. That wasn't my point. I wasn't putting him on the clock to record quotes because, again, it's not his department. But he never gave me a contact over there to go through. And one thing he did tell me is his theory, and again, John Gallagher, the FIM, doesn't know this for sure because it's not his department, but he theorized that maybe the fact that both Tickle and Clason are working through lawyers has turned these cases into an entanglement. We all know that once it's a legal process and once courts and lawyers are involved, everything takes longer. So Gallagher at least had the theory of maybe because there were lawyers involved, it's now moved to the legal department of the FIM, and that's why information has been so slow in coming. I mean, for Clason, he's gone over a year now, and he doesn't even know how long he's supposed to be suspended. He's just provisionally suspended for some amount of time. He doesn't know. At Loretta Lynn's last week, Cade Clason's dad found me at the podium. I'd never met his dad. He came up to me, and usually when dads want to comment on a story in the magazine, I run for cover. Moto dads are gnarly. They're scary. I do my best to stay away from them. But I will give credit. Cade's dad was actually really nice. He just wanted to show me one thing. He actually brought the letter with him from the FIM that said, this is a correspondence they did have with Cade early in Cade Clayson's process, and the FIM letter on FIM letterhead said, Mr. Clayson, you may want to pursue legal representation. That's what a lot of athletes do in this situation. I'm paraphrasing, but basically the letter recommended it would probably be smart to him to work with a lawyer. And then Cade did actually tell me that the only communication he ever seems to get a response to is when it's sent from his lawyer. So in the Racer X story, if you've read it, one of the theories from John Gallagher is that maybe things have moved to the legal department, and that's causing these letters and emails and phone calls to take longer to come back. But in Cade's case, at least, he was told, you really should have a lawyer for this situation. And that's the same thing with Broc. So Broc, in this interview, will mention Brian, and that's his lawyer. And let's be honest, if you've read some of Tickle's social media posts about this, I think we can all tell those paragraphs are written by a lawyer, not a racer. So they're not hiding anything there. Anyway, I do want to give credit for John Gallagher for at least picking up the phone and talking to me about it, even though it's not his department, not his area of expertise. We weren't able to get in touch with anyone else from the FIM. We actually went to their website and just sent a bunch of emails out, never heard back. But that is actually consistent. It literally says in all the Tickle press releases at the bottom, under the World Anti-Doping Code and FIM Anti-Doping Code, the FIM is unable to provide any additional information at this time. So in the press releases about Tickle, they have said we will not be commenting further, and they have not. So we do have Tickle's side, and that'll be coming up right here on the Racer X Exhaust podcast, brought to you by Yoshimura. Check them out, yoshimura-rd.com. For all your four-stroke exhaust needs, be it for your dirt bike, your street bike, your ATV. And what I think is cool, those pipes are made right there in California, so they are made in the USA. Tariff-free, keeping the prices down on those pipes. Also go to racerxbrand.com. We've got a new patriotic line of shirts coinciding with Motocross of Nations coming to the US. So go to racerxbrand.com, and I will give you a discount code right here. When you order your shirts, your hats, your backpacks, whatever you want from there, type in exhaust in all capital letters and get 20% off. Now, we also have a similar code for a guy who works for us named Steve Schmathis, and he has the Schmulp MX show and series of podcasts. He has a similar discount. I believe his discount has been used by one person. I don't want to give exact numbers out, but my discount has been used by 9 times more than one person. But I don't want to give out exact numbers. That's up to you guys to figure out. Let's roll into this conversation with Broc Tickle. Like I said, I actually recorded this in June, worked on the magazine story. Magazine story's out. Now you can hear the entire interview. The unfortunate news for Broc, in that time, nothing has changed. Everything in this interview is the same. He hasn't learned any more about his suspension or the process or anything like that. So here comes Broc Tickle, but first, this. Podcast. 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 Yeah, that's great stuff right there. You know what? There might be performance-enhancing drugs involved with a performance that great. I just want to give a note. When I called Tickle, I was trying to get a hold of him for the magazine story. He was actually busy for a week because the gut punch kick in the nuts, he was moving cross-country. He had gone to Florida, picked up all his stuff. The Florida Alden Baker KTM dream was over, and he's driving cross-country, so he needed a couple of days before he was back in California and available. So we'll reference the quote-unquote drive from Florida a couple times here as the true symbolic nature of how his entire racing career got flipped upside down. Regardless of whatever you think about drug testing in the sport, it's certainly interesting to hear Tickle's side. Here we go. All right, so let me start this part here. You mentioned that you were moving, so that's like a big part of the story. Actually, you officially have had to, put that part at least on pause, and just you're out of Florida. You had the dream scenario. You're on Dungey's bike, Dungey's team, Dungey's trainer, all that. You've had to now leave that behind. It's official that you have to at least pause for a little while.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it's just another thing with the situation, just because of money and whatnot. I mean, it's not cheap to have a second place that you're paying for. And,
yep.
I wanted to make sure my practice mechanic was taken care of, and we kind of all agreed on a month we were ending everything. So that's kind of how we did it. And I mean, it's a big bummer to look at it and head down there and just fly and get all my stuff and drive back. But that's what needed to be done for the situation. And I'm grateful that I've got the opportunity with KTM. Obviously, I didn't see it go in this direction.
Right.
And in the grand scheme of things, in the big picture, I have to look ahead, because if I look back on that and dread on the negative part of it, I think it could really ruin you.
How did you feel it was going? It wasn't like you came out and were racking up wins or anything like that, but did you feel it was going okay? Did you feel like you were on the verge of doing more? Were you happy where you were? How did it go, in the races you did do for them?
No, I mean, I felt like I was building, and I seem to always do that.
Yep.
But at the time, I didn't feel like I was where I should be at all. Like, I was more frustrated than I've ever been. And I think that's just being part of Red Bull KTM and being part of Alden's. You kind of, I think, subconsciously you put yourself as you need to be winning or on the podium every weekend. But on paper, I was better than what I was last year. So going back and looking at that, I mean, that's a positive, and I felt like I was on the verge of kind of breaking through that barrier that have been going through the last 7 years or so. So, I mean, I've had flashes of brilliance where I get podiums here and there and have really good rides, but it wasn't consistent. Like, I was consistently 5 to 7, which is a tough place to be, because you're on the verge of going to that next pace step in salary-wise, and when it comes down to getting rides, it's difficult, because then you have to sacrifice for riding for less or whatever the situation may be. And there's obviously guys 5 to 7. There's a lot of guys that are kind of in that group too. So if there's a guy that, you know what I mean, it's almost like the better of the 5 out of 7 is going to get the ride. So, and I've been lucky enough, and I think consistent enough to where people have chosen me, and I feel like that's why I ended up at Red Bull KTM.
Okay, so we go to San Diego. When you were taking this test, were you even thinking twice? Were you even worried about it? Did you even think, "Oh no, I have to take a test"? Was that even running through your mind?
No, that wasn't at all. Like, I mean, I've gotten urine tested before, and it wasn't obviously an issue. And I know I haven't ever taken anything, obviously, intentionally to put myself in a situation where I have to worry about it. And to be honest, there's nothing that I've taken even this year, and I know the people, maybe keyboard warriors or whatnot, think that there's something going on down at Alden's, but to be honest, it's the opposite of what everybody perceives it to be, you know what I mean, on that side of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're not taking, according to him, he's like, you don't even take a lot of supplements, or not really any at all.
No, he doesn't recommend anything, you know what I mean? So, like, I mean, obviously, at a certain point, if you go get blood work done and you have vitamin deficiencies here and there, obviously it's good to fine-tune it, but that's as far as we go, or we went, you know what I mean? And that's it.
So this is not a situation. Go ahead. Keep going. Yep.
With the compound that I got in trouble with, too, like, there's so many things that, if you go and research, a lot of cross-contamination seems like it's an issue, you know what I mean?
Aha.
So that's a good, you know what I mean? Any supplement is at verge of having an issue with a compound similar to mine, or what I got in trouble for.
Yeah,
so it's kind of tough to look at it and look at it fairly from my side. You know what I'm saying? So it's just difficult.
Right. So this is not the situation where you're like, oh, because we know that the supplements are not regulated. They're not FDA. It's hard to know what some of the ingredients are. They disguise the names. But you're not saying that I took something and didn't realize this was in it. You're saying I didn't really take anything. I didn't take supplements.
No, I took supplements.
Okay.
I got supplements tested.
Mm-hmm.
I got the notification Thursday before Minneapolis.
Yeah.
And I flew home Friday from Minnie back to California, and on Monday I went to a lab and did my own urine test there, which they tested for the full WADA code, and nothing came up.
What?
And then, yes, and then on top of that, I dropped off all my supplements that I was taking and drink mixes on a daily basis to the lab as well. And it's expensive, but I only got the ones that I was kind of didn't know, you know what I mean? Obviously, the ones that were kind of maybe had the similar, I guess, effect is what methylhexamine could do at first, and it's $500 a pop, a supplement. So, and the stuff I got tested had nothing come up, and to be honest, that's the part that was frustrating. I was hoping something was going to come back there, and then I had at least something kind of in the back of my mind, like, okay, well, we know where it came from. Now we can fight it and say we didn't know. Like, you know what I mean? We don't know where it came. We don't know how it was in this or that or whatever.
Right.
But that's what the direction that we were hoping that something could have been that way. Because right now, not knowing where it came from and whatnot makes it, I think, a little more difficult to fight.
Oh, so you actually, as bad as it would be to be like, oh, now I know why I failed, you'd still like to know, even though failing is not good and all that, you still just wanted to know, how is this possible?
Well, yeah, no, definitely. And then another, like, it sucks because I've talked to multiple doctors and whatnot, and the compound that I got in trouble for actually restricts your blood flow. So in the grand scheme of things for our sport, that is not really anything it's not physically enhancing by any means. So that's something else to look at from my side that makes it kind of difficult. Like, why is that even on the list if that's the issue? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that is weird. Okay, so any supplements you were taking have been tested. You didn't think there was anything in them, and not just based on looking at the ingredients list, but actually had them tested. And then you had them tested again after the fact, and still nothing came up.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and I still have the other supplements the other supplements I haven't got tested yet.
Yep.
Like I said, I did just a couple just because they're $500 a pop, which it adds up quick if you have 5 or 6 different things that you take on a daily basis. And I mean, this is like taking this is like multivitamins, but from a medical grade company. You know what I mean? It's not like I went to GNC or CVS and said, "Oh, this multivitamin looks good." You know what I mean? Oh, it's $7.99 for a multivitamin. That's really good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's not like I did that. Like, I was paying for just multivitamins and all the daily things like magnesium and stuff like that I was deficient on. Like, I mean, I was probably spending $200 a month, and it was only like five supplements. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you're saying that
it's not like yeah, it's tough. So it's just difficult because obviously getting medical grade, obviously there's still issues no matter which direction you go with this. And I think that's why when Outdoors has the meetings with USADA and whatnot, they tell you that no supplement is safe. And I mean, it's kind of, after this situation, I believe it.
Yeah, so even when you say supplements, I don't want people to get confused here. You don't necessarily mean, protein powder or the pre-workout is a term we keep hearing. You're even just talking about daily vitamins and minerals.
Like pre-work.
Yeah.
Yes, like just your like supplements. I mean, like, so anything that you like pill-wise, like just like multivitamins, fish oil.
Yeah.
Magnesium, like that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Nothing. Yep. I'm not talking like you know what I mean? Not pre-workout based drinks or. It's not like I have a cupboard full of pre-workout drinks.
Right. You don't have ripped fuel, amino acids, shredded, ripped, bodybuilding. All
no,
that stuff.
none of that. None of that stuff. Yeah, that's what I mean. It's difficult because it's not. If you go and research it, it just makes it tough to look at it and it be like somewhat fair, if that makes sense, because it can be in geraniums, the compound that I got in trouble for, and that can be in oils and massage oils to essential oils that you use for aromatherapy. Like, I mean, this stuff can be in anything. It can be a shampoo. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Like geranium. I forget the official name they use for the geranium oil, but if you go and research it a little bit, it can cause methylhexamine compound.
Wow. Do you know how much they allow? Is this like zero tolerance, or you can only have a slight amount? Do you know how much you had?
So the way it works, so the way it works, if it's on the ban list, it's on the ban list, and it doesn't matter how much is in there.
Zero.
So,
yep, has to be zero.
So when they do that, so when they search for the WADA code, when they do their system, if something tings and it's on the ban list, it doesn't matter how much it is, so they don't test for quantity.
Mm-hmm. I see. So you have no idea.
What I had done was I sent a report to the lab that I went and got all my supplements tested with, and then we scheduled a call. Me and Brian Harrison scheduled a call with that lab, and after he looked over the lab report, he said there is a ratio that we can do to figure out about how much was in your system, and it's not trace, but it's a very small amount. So we can't, 100% confirm that, but that's from the ratios that he knows that you can do with the numbers that they gave him with the graph. He told me it's a small amount.
So in your own test, you found that much out. This doesn't come out of the WADA test because they don't tell you how much.
No, that was through the WADA test. So I got the lab documents from A and B samples, and I forward those to the lab that did my urine test here. You know what I mean, in California.
Oh, I see.
And the lab guy, we scheduled just a call with the guy at the lab that knows all about this stuff. So that's what I mean. It was a very small amount.
It's a very small amount, but the problem is they don't allow a very small amount. They allow none. Right.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
If it tings the scale, you're screwed.
Also, and this is my rudimentary research, it seems like this stuff supposedly has the half-life, which means stays in your system for a very brief time. Is that true from what you know more about it than I do? Is that true? Like, supposedly, if you did take a pre-workout powder and you had this chemical and you knew it, it supposedly is only detectable for 8 hours. Is that part true, or is that actually just a myth?
So what I found out too. So biological 8.5 hours is what it says online.
Yeah.
And the lab guy here also told me that means if you took something in 8.5 hours, it has half the life of what it did when you took it. So then in another 8.5 hours, it has half of that life. So it actually can be in your system for, I don't know, probably a day and a half. You know what I mean? If you look at it that way. So, and with a very small amount, it could have definitely been something that I consumed on Friday.
Yeah, that's still a very short window, though. You know, you're still really only talking Friday and Saturday at most. That this happened.
For sure.
Wow. So I know, as you had said on the Pulp Show, you and your wife basically went through and charted every single thing you ate and did for that two or 3 day span.
Yeah, so she was just going through pictures because she takes pictures at the races, obviously. And then the week of, we actually had our niece and I. We actually did a photo shoot together, like a wedding photo shoot. I believe on Tuesday evening, and we went through we had pictures from all that and stuff like that, and we had our niece on Tuesday night, and we went through all the pictures and kind of made up a timeline. And there's nothing that stands out. I didn't feel sick that week or anything of that, in that manner. So, that was the number one thing, to try to make a timeline and try to, at least from the beginning, figure out if there was anything that stood out.
Okay, now you've been fairly vocal with the 2 Instagram posts, and I know obviously your lawyer had a lot to do with what it said, but are you upset with the process? You failed the test, you're serving time, we don't know how long. Is there a part of the process that you're bummed about, or are you like, I failed, I guess I'm in trouble? How are you squared up with the testing and the FIM and the rules and everything right now in your mind?
I definitely think it needs to change for our sport. It's too long. We wrote emails, and we have read receipts, or I don't. My lawyer or my attorney does, and they read it, and then they don't respond. And dude, this is my livelihood. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you're the FIM legal department, this is your job.
Yep.
Take care of your business and do what you're supposed to do. You know what I mean? And that's the difficult part. I understand, okay, I failed, and I get it. You know what I mean? I definitely get that, 100%. But I feel like this could have been done, and there could have been a sentence done months ago, because the test was ran on February 28th. Yep. And I peed in the cup February 11th, so that's reasonable time to get the test done, having flying overseas and whatnot. But They knew the test results at 228.
Oh, really?
So why did I get notified? Why did I get notified on 411?
Wow. So a month and a half went by where they just sat on it.
Yes. So, like, it's just, I mean, maybe they didn't sit on it, but, like, maybe they didn't get to it, but at the same time, I don't think that matters. You know what I mean? I don't think it should have, I feel like I should know what's going on, and since I've gotten B analysis done, me or Brian have heard nothing back about a hearing date, about what the sentence is looking like, this or that, nothing. We haven't had any leeway since I posted that Instagram post saying B sample was positive as well. I have not had an email back.
Also, we've heard the term automatic 4-year ban got thrown around a lot, and I think we've all learned that that's not really the case. That, you know, the penalties vary quite a bit. But do you have any idea of what things you can do to reduce the penalty? Have they given you any advice on that? Like, work with us here, or don't go on podcast and talk about us there? Like, do you have any idea? Or racing in Canada? Like, do you really know what's good or bad for you at this point?
Not really, but from my side, like, I definitely don't want to do anything to piss them off.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I think me being vocal about the problems we're having, I don't think is really hurting me to an extent that's going to matter. You know what I mean? I think for our sport, it's something I need to do, and obviously, I'm kind of the guy that normally kind of sits back and doesn't say much, and I didn't really want to do that press release because I was like, I don't really want to cause a tornado here.
Yeah.
But I got advice from Brian, and to be honest, I've gotten a lot of positive feedback from that.
Yeah. What is the view in the industry? Because it could go two ways. I think you're well liked, and this community is pretty close knit, so it does seem like you've gotten support. But at the same time, it's a competitive environment. Maybe some people could be happy to see someone who's not working with them get in trouble. So what has been the reaction?
I would say like 90% of most people I've seen comment or call me or whatnot has been really positive.
Yep.
And everybody seems to be on my side, and everybody I've worked with team-wise have all texted me or reached out. So, like, I'm really happy with how I've been in the sport, you know what I mean? I haven't caused much ruckus. I've been respectful, and it shows now that when I get put in a situation like this, that doing that goes a long way.
Yeah, you even went to Glen Helen. Were you a little nervous to go there? Did you immediately want to go? Did you have to think about that? Because it's kind of a weird situation. You're in limbo. I almost feel like we don't even know if we're allowed to talk to you right now. I'm like, I don't know if the guy legally can say anything. So did it seem awkward, or were you not worried about that at all?
No, I mean, I'm not. I'm going to go to some more outdoors, and I honestly wanted to go to Vegas, but just the situation and whatnot, I just didn't want to go. You know what I mean? And it being Vegas, like, it's just a lot of stuff happening.
Yep.
And I'm not ashamed by any means of the situation. I mean, I know in my heart that I didn't do anything wrong, you know what I mean, or intentionally, and I can sleep at night. So for me, like there's no reason to be standoffish to anybody or anything that's normal for me.
Right. Yeah, you can't be embarrassed. Like, you feel you're not guilty, so there's nothing to be embarrassed over.
Oh, I'm not embarrassed at all. Like, it's just a situation that I got put in, and I'm going to put my right foot in front of my left, and we'll get through this and go on to the next thing. Just take it step by step and see what I end up getting sentenced with, and then make a decision for my career from that point. And I'm hoping for 8 to 12 months would be ideal, and that's pretty close to what other athletes have gotten for methylhexamine. So if I can put myself in that category, that puts me to race outdoors next year. And a part that was hard for me to swallow was how well I was riding outdoors, and having that close to podium finish in Indy and then Seattle being a fourth place. Like, I was just on the verge of clicking through the barrier, and I saw it right in front of me, and the weeks were getting easier, and my attitude was getting better. Like, everything was in the place, so that part's kind of tough, but where I was at, I can see myself doing it again, no problem. And it's, so I'm just trying to stay positive and keep my head on my shoulders straight.
Yeah. If there's something you would like from the FIM now, what would it be? Like, you're sending these emails, you're not getting it back. Like, what are you hoping to get from them? Like, what do you, or just a sentence? Is it just that simple?
No, I mean, just communication. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I guess my attorney Brian talked to Kate Clason's dad and said that they've had the same problems. Like, the communication, they'll call, they can't get through, they'll email back at their manner, and it's not their manner in a respectful way or whatever you may say,
Mm-hmm.
but it could be 2 months later. You know what I mean? And that's difficult.
Yeah. But what kind of questions do you have for them? What do you need to communicate about? Or is it just a sentence, or is it a variety of things?
Basically, I just want to get this done. Like,
mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I feel like most people, even from their side, like, let's get this guy done and sorted,
mm-hmm.
and move forward. You know what I mean? And I'm kind of on the other side of it, but I'm in the same picture. Like, I'm like, let's just get this done.
Yep.
Yes, those tests were positive for methylhexamine.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just get it sorted and let the guy live his life. Because if I could see how now dealing with this had a lot to do with the way James. I obviously he hasn't announced a full retirement yet, but
right.
This whole deal is difficult. Like, it's not. They're serious, and I get it, and I think that's good
mm-hmm.
for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
But for our sport, the way it's worked and the communication, like, I feel like it could be done a lot better for everybody. And let's just say somebody turns pro. I mean, you'll agree. They
mm-hmm.
turn pro. I said this on the Pulp Show, but they turn pro and go do a P test, and methylhexamine pops up. Oh, you're out for 2 years. Like, the guy just got a ride on one of the top lights teams, and then in his first year gets banned for 2 years. Like, that's going to be hard to come back from.
Right, yeah, you're not established. You did say that. Well, actually, if it was you in whatever you turned pro, 2009 or whatever, and this happened then.
2007, bro.
You're old. Okay,
yeah.
if this happens to you in 2007 and you can't race for a season or two, you probably never get another ride again, right?
I mean, the odds of it happening and being good are really low.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Right.
But, like, say, yeah, well, in my situation, probably not. Because I didn't qualify for my first Supercross. I got fifth at my second Supercross, and then from there I was 9 to 11 pretty much every Supercross, and then I had a couple races where I DNF, but, I mean, it wasn't very good. So the chances of it happening and being positive or in a good scenario, like, it's difficult.
Yeah, like you needed
and
those.
When you're young like that, there's always a guy behind you.
Mm-hmm.
You know how that is. There's always guys behind you that are coming.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And you're trying to learn the process. Like, those first couple of years are really important for you to get better and improve. Like, what you're saying now is you have enough knowledge base where the day they say you can race again, you're pretty sure you can get right back at it because you kind of know how to connect the dots already. But that's because you've been around.
Yeah, for sure. And I know what means a lot and what doesn't mean a lot, if that
mm-hmm.
makes sense,
mm-hmm.
in the big picture, like, in racing. So, like, my knowledge in that would definitely help me get back to where I should be. You know what I mean? But, like, for guys that haven't learned the ropes yet, it'd be difficult for them to. And let's be honest, there's a lot of money and a lot of sacrifices that go into. To this starting out racing when you're 3, 4, 5, and then turning pro at 16, not really going to school. I mean, there's a lot of things that happened prior to this. If you look at it at that situation, that make this, I think it's just not fair for our sport.
Yeah, because you're in so deep. Like, it's not easy to just pull yourself out of it and say, okay, well, I guess my racing career is over. I just got to go and do something else. You're in so deep at this level. That's not an easy thing to just, especially if you're not finishing school. It's not easy to just do that.
Yeah. No, for sure. Like, that's what I mean, at this point, I hate to be the example for the situation,
Yep.
I hope this opens eyes for everybody in the sport, manufacturers, riders, just everybody that's behind the sport, no matter if they're a fan or just involved. But I think it I hate to be the example, like I said, but I hope it changes. Like, I understand, okay, I got in trouble for this compound. Okay, let's look at this on the graph. Where does that put Broc? Okay, he's out for 6 to 8 races, or he's out for 5 races. And if he gets another, if he has another test come up positive, then it's double. And if he has a third one, then he's out for 2 years. Like, especially with the compound that I got in trouble for. So, like, if you're testosterone and HGH and EPO
Right.
levels, like, okay, 2 years, 4 years right off the get go. Okay, cool. I was cheating. You know what I mean?
That doesn't happen on accident. Yeah.
No.
Right. The unfortunate irony is, like, the same day I think you were moving, we saw, like, Julian Edelman, who's like a top receiver for the Patriots. He gets popped for PEDs, and it was a quick 4-game suspension, I think, and not fired from the team or anything. It's just like, yeah, this happens sometimes. He'll miss 4 games. He'll be back. Not really a big controversy. So have you seen that, these way the guys get penalized in other sports? I'm sure you pay attention to this now.
Yeah, I think I've maybe seen some NASCAR stuff and some football stuff, like just browsing through the online. Like, you can, obviously there's a bunch of stuff you can find out pretty easily.
Yep.
Like, if you type in 5-methylhexamine to amine, like what I actually got in trouble for,
Yeah.
dude, it gives you a list of all the people that have gotten in trouble for it on Wikipedia.
What are
my name's already on there.
Oh, congratulations! Congratulations!
Yeah, so I made the online Wikipedia. I'm famous.
But so you know what their penalties were? Also, is that where you're kind of coming up with this 8 to 12 months thing?
So that's that's where I came up with the numbers for suspension time. Anywhere from 8 to 18 months has been where methylhexamine group has been put. So, I mean, it seems pretty realistic. If that's where I am, and I can get the reduced side of it, then I'm in a good place to come back next year for outdoors, because last race was, I don't know the exact date, but I know I got notified on the 11th. So Seattle was the last race I raced, so it'd be the week before, and that's when the suspension starts. It starts on that Sunday after Seattle. So, and going back to what you said, something about Canada, I'm not 100% sure that if I go and race there, that I won't get that. The way it works, I guess I don't know for sure, like I said, but if I go up there and race for the summer, and then I get my notification, okay, you're banned for 12 months, then it starts at the end of their series, which kind of seems very odd and very, I mean,
Right.
I understand it, but I don't. Do you know what I mean? Like for Cade Clayson, like, the guy, how does he make money? Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, in my situation, I've had a decent career, and I could figure something out. Do you know what I mean? But, like, in his shoes, like, okay, you can't go race in Canada either. Like, what the hell is a guy supposed to do?
Yeah. If it's not a series that says it has those rules, that's what's weird. Like, the series doesn't have those rules, but it's almost like they do, even though they don't.
Yes. And I don't want to make it, like I said, I don't want to make it any more difficult than what it's been already. So for me, it's just trying to minimize that. And I think being vocal isn't a bad thing. Maybe they do. Maybe they hate it. Maybe they don't. But at the same time, I think it's good for the whole sport.
By the way, this, of course,
on that side, because
yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. Like you said, you're the example. One thing that's unfortunate, Alden has had so much success, and people are always suspicious, honestly, for one reason and one reason only, because the results are so phenomenal. It almost begs the question of, like, man, what is this guy's secret? My first question on that is this. As far as you know, were you basically taking the same supplements and on the similar diet to what Anderson and Marvin and other guys who have been tested and have not failed? As far as you know, is it the same stuff as them and they didn't fail?
I think it's kind of one of those things, like Alden just tells you if you want to go get blood work done, you can.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I don't know for sure. I know those guys have been to that doctor I've been to.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
and that's all I know. I don't know what they take on a daily basis for vitamins or whatnot, but
Oh, okay.
I'm assuming if they go there, then yes, they're on the similar brands.
Right, and they, for whatever reason, have passed tests. Yeah. Yep.
Yes.
And yep, that's weird. And the second thing on that is,
Yeah.
Alden, now he's getting accused of people on all sides. And when he told me at Glen Helen, he's like, look, man, I understand in cycling if your fitness or your endurance or your power is less than the competition, you're off the back, you're not going to win. He says, look, we're really trying to work on riding. I know that he's known as a trainer, and when people think training, they think fitness and endurance. But he's like, so much of our program is how to ride better and ride faster and ride with more intensity. We're not trying to make these massive endurance gains like we would if we were in cycling. So we don't really even need to go down that route because that's not where we think the huge gains are going to be. It's on going fast, not going 35 plus 2. Do you agree with that, where it's not like it's all about Alden's a trainer and it's fitness and it's endurance and it's the last 5 minutes of the moto? That's where he pays off.
To be honest, the part that I took from the whole scenario is that you're accountable at all times. Mm-hmm. And that's something for me that I struggled with in the beginning. So, every single time I hit the track, if I was a little off of where I was the day before or was struggling, it was come on, you have to. And, it took me a while to get it down to where I was able to push every day of the week. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that's and that was on the bike. Everything off the bike, is kind of all the same for all of us. Pretty similar. Obviously, there's some stuff that he'll fine-tune, gym-wise, because obviously my body type compared to Marv's body type, strength-wise, it's going to be different.
Mm-hmm.
So, obviously, there were some exercises that I would focus on and more than Marv would or whatever the case may be. But coming from down there and going down there and whatnot, it honestly was all about accountability, to be honest. And I think that's something that I took. That's basically, you work hard and you're accountable at all times. And I feel like if you can make it work and you can get through it, you go to that next level. And I feel like I was just on the cusp of doing that whenever things went sideways.
But it wasn't just I have to improve I go here and I improve my fitness and my endurance.
No.
Yeah.
No, to be honest, my weak link prior to this was not riding with somebody faster or the same speed as me at all times.
Mm-hmm.
So, years prior, I did do some motos with Swanepoel's group and whatnot, but most of the time I was the fastest guy, so I wouldn't say I was milking it, but I could get away with riding at 90%, 85% sometimes and still be the best guy. So,
yep.
But when you have guys that are pushing down at Alden's every day and fighting for it, you have to step up. You don't want to be the guy that's the slowest.
Right. Right. Yeah. So again, you're working on.
So I would say
speed.
what he's saying is probably is 100% right. I think from his side, I think that's the goal, is obviously to go to the race and be better, and the only way to do that is by duplicating that during the week.
Yeah.
And I would say that was where most of the focus was. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think because he's known as a trainer and he didn't race motocross, people think that there's no effort put into the actual riding speed technique thing. It's all fitness, endurance. But he's like, no, it's not really where we make the gains.
Yeah,
we try to go faster.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think obviously everybody rides a little different. So, with me riding smooth, sometimes, yes, he maybe assumed that I wasn't pushing, but that kind of, in the beginning, he had to learn me a little more, you know what I mean, on how I was riding, because that's something in the beginning I kind of struggled with as well. I'm not the same as Zach or Marv or Jason. Zach hits the track, and he's to the moon every time, do you know what I mean? That's just Zach. And Marv is kind of the same way, especially when he's riding really good. There's a lot of effort put out, and I'm kind of more efficient, as I should say, on the bike, not moving around as much and stuff like that. So that's something that I think he learned working with me in the beginning, is that I was pretty efficient putting out a good effort, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, one of those, there's two different riding styles always. There's the guys that look like they're going faster than they are, and there's guys that look like they're going slower than they are. The stopwatch ultimately determines who's doing what, but it always looks different.
And doing starts and like see that stuff like down there, like it's organized. You know what I mean? And that's what you get out of that whole situation as well. And the facility is nice. You were down there, I think 1 week.
I was
during Supercross.
Yep.
So you kind of got to see everything from the outside, and I mean, the setup is probably the best that anybody's ever had for the situation.
My last thing I just want to touch on, it sounds like some industry people, you mentioned doing some development right now for some Alpine Star stuff. Sound like some industry people have kind of gotten your back and have offered you some help or some work or even to keep paying you and stuff through this process. Is that true?
Yeah, so Alpine Stars is going to help me out, and Gabrielle really is, I mean, if it wasn't for him, I probably would be up in Canada, to be honest. So I'm going to do some product testing for him, and I mean, I can't appreciate that enough, to be honest, because you know how the sport is. Like, it's not like I said earlier when we weren't recording. It's just how this sport is like most of the people involved, they're out for their best interests, and that you just have to accept that.
It's business.
You know what I mean?
It's just business.
Everybody's out.
Yep.
Yeah, that's just how it is.
Yeah. Yep.
So me being through it and being through difficult times, getting on teams, and you know what I mean, not bouncing around, but having a couple tough scenarios, it made me learn that, hey, that's just the way it is. Don't let it bug you. And that's kind of what I've accepted, and that's where I'm at with that.
And then Bobby Regan, did I hear he said, if you need a job, I'll find something for you if you do need that?
Yeah, like if he's like, hey, if you decide after this whole deal and you end up getting suspended for a long period of time and you're like, hey, I think I'm over it, call me and we'll try to figure out something for you to do to help out with the team or whatnot. I mean, obviously, that's all it was. Is that
right.
He was calling just to let me know if I needed some help or this or that he could find something for me to do.
It's just the thought that counts.
Nothing nothing name ordinated, you know what I mean? Not be team manager, team trainer, trying to, he's like, I'm not saying anything to step on anybody else's toes, basically.
Yeah, well, it's just a thought that counts. What I'm just trying to show here is that's the support you've gotten from the industry where people are like, I don't want to associate with this guy because he got caught. You've actually had some people reach out and say, hey, man, if there's anything we can do, let us know.
No, and Mitch and I talked a couple times. He gave me some doctors' numbers that he had and some and they gave me some other contacts, and I kind of talked to them and we're just, at the beginning, whenever we didn't know what was going on, we just tried to get as much information as we could to just understand what was going on.
When you were taking the drive from Florida to California, or I don't know when it would have hit, but at some point this had to hit. Like you seemed like your spirits are kind of up and you're doing your best to move forward and not look back or regret, but there had to be some super low point. Maybe it was Thursday when you got the news. But oh my God, this had to hit like a ton of bricks at some point in this process.
Yeah, no, it was, the drive wasn't too bad, but when I went to Alden's on Friday and rode, and I went there Thursday to pick up my stuff, and then Friday they were riding. I went by there, and I mean, it was kind of tough for me, but like I said, I can't let that bother me too much. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
right.
It was tough, but it is what I have to do. You know what I mean? It was like, okay, I need to go get my stuff in Florida. Let's get it done and let's get home.
What's your schedule right now? Do you have one?
I'm training like I'm racing, bro.
Wow, really?
No, I mean I've been since the first, basically since the second sample came back. Obviously after KTM and we had to split ways. I got a bike from TLD for the time being until my bike shows up, and actually just got a call today, like I said, that my bike's ready for pickup, and I just want to ride and do the things I like to do. You know what I mean? I enjoy training. I've been doing some different training stuff just to do it, stuff that I haven't done before, and just trying to learn on that side of things because it interests me. And then, like I said, just trying to stay busy. It's important, and obviously being a professional athlete, I think in any sport or being part of a sport like this, you're in it. Like, you're pegged.
Yeah.
Like, you're 24 hours a day, 7 days a week working, no matter how you look at it. And to just stop is
Yeah.
not. I just don't see that being very healthy for me. Like, maybe it is healthy for me to tame down on training or whatnot and kind of take a week or two to regroup, but it's not. I think mentally, I know mentally, it's not the best thing to do.
Yeah. You can't sit there and just stew on it all day.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yep. Okay. This is everything I need. That was good, and I appreciate you being candid. I don't know if there's anything else you want to hit or you want to say. I know you probably don't want to go too crazy on railing on people. Because that
I mean, there's not. I mean, to be honest, I don't really have anything to rail about, like rail on anybody about. I mean, it's my situation.
Mm-hmm.
I have to deal with it, and I'm gonna put my best foot forward and try to get the best out of the scenario. I mean, it does suck, but it is what it is at this point, and gonna enjoy my time off, as you should say, and hopefully get the reduced sentence and be ready for outdoors next year. And I mean, to be honest, I have an inner motivation that's greater than it's ever been, to be honest. And I think that's why I haven't slowed down and why I think I'm in a good place mentally. And when I come back, and it's going to be good. I have a gut feeling that that's what it's going to be. You know what I mean? So that's something that I'm feeding off at the moment.
And there it is. There's our interview with Broc Tickle. All we can do is sit back and wait and see what unfolds for the rest of his career. A lot of news coming in hot and heavy in motocross right now. I'm going to tackle that on a separate podcast, which we're putting under the title of Staff Meeting. Team France has picked their donations team. Team USA is about to pick their donations team, and a lot of other things happening. As for Broc Tickle, he's not a part of the news right now. He's hoping to be soon, because the next piece would probably be him finding out how long he is suspended. So thanks for listening to the Racer X Exhaust podcast, brought to you by Yoshimura. Yoshimura, check them out for everything you need for four-stroke exhaust for your ATV, your dirt bike, your street bike. Go to yoshimura-rd.com. Made in the USA, those pipes. And speaking of USA, we have the patriotic line of shirts now at racerxbrand.com. And you get a discount. Type in exhaust in all capital letters, and you'll get a capital-sized discount of 20% off. I wish I could say those shirts are made in the USA. I don't think it quite works that way. I'm not supposed to say that? Not supposed to say that. Not supposed to say that. Okay. This has been the Racer X Exhaust podcast, brought to you by Yoshimura. I'm off to Unadilla. Hope you enjoyed the show. We'll be back next week. See you then.